I have forgiven him. It took me a long time. I thought I hated Chris, and I realized it was love that was tarnished. I realized that what it was is I had to forgive him because I cared about him still.
This is the real reason Rihanna has not said Chris Brown's name in over a decade, and how A$AP Rocky answered the question the entire internet has been asking, without ever giving a single interview about it. In 2012, Rihanna sat across from Oprah and said, quote, "I have forgiven him. He's the love of my life. I still love him. My stomach drops." That was 2012. Since that interview, Rihanna has not publicly discussed Chris Brown. Not once, not in a magazine, not on social media, not at the Super Bowl, not anywhere. Over 13 years of complete deliberate silence about the man she once called the love of her life, and while the internet has spent those years debating why, Rocky has been quietly providing the answer. Not with a press tour, not with a tell-all interview, but with a lyric he dropped on Chris Brown's birthday, 3 children he's raising with Rihanna, and a life that made the question irrelevant. And once you see the full timeline laid out, the reason for her silence becomes obvious. But to understand it, we need to go back to the night that started everything. February 8th, 2009. After Clive Davis's pre-Grammy party, Chris Brown and Rihanna are in a rented Lamborghini on a Hollywood street. An argument starts. According to the LAPD detective's affidavit, it began after Rihanna read a 3-page text on Brown's phone from a woman he had been involved with previously. What happened next was detailed in that affidavit, and I'm not going to read all of it because some of it is genuinely difficult to hear. But the detective described Brown shoving Rihanna's head against the passenger window, punching her repeatedly while driving, putting her in a headlock, biting her, and choking her. He threatened to end her life. A neighbor heard screaming and called 911. Brown turned himself in to LAPD's Wilshire station at 6:30 that evening. Bail was set at $50,000. And here's the part most people don't know. A probation report later revealed that this was not the first time. There were 2 prior incidents between them that were never reported. One in Europe and one in Barbados, where Brown broke car windows. In a November 2009 interview with Diane Sawyer on ABC's 2020, Rihanna called Brown "definitely my first big love" and described the leaked photo of her injuries as humiliating.
He was definitely my first big love. We fell in love with each other. To fall in love with your best friend, it can be scary.
Rihanna, swollen, bruised, battered. The picture taken that night, have you looked at it?
I get very embarrassed. I feel humiliated.
Now, what happened after the altercation is where the story splits into 2 very different directions. On the legal side, Brown was charged with a felony case of bodily harm and making criminal threats on March 5, 2009. He pleaded guilty on June 22, 2009 to 1 felony count of causing great bodily injury. On August 25th, he was sentenced to 5 years of formal felony probation, roughly 1,400 hours of community labor, a 1-year domestic violence counseling program, and approximately $2,960 in fines. A protective order was issued by February 2011 at Brown's lawyer's request, and with Rihanna's agreement, the order was modified to a level 1, allowing contact and joint appearances at industry events as long as Brown did not harass her. Rihanna told Rolling Stone at the time, quote, "It doesn't mean we're gonna make up or even talk again. It just means I didn't want to object to the judge." But then the unexpected happened. By late 2012, they were back together. In January 2013, Rihanna confirmed it publicly. He's not the monster everybody thinks. He's a good person. They collaborated on remixes of Birthday Cake and Turn Up the Music. And then they split for the final time in 2013. Brown's probation ended in March 2015, which means no court order has restricted Rihanna from discussing Chris Brown for over a decade now. So her silence since 2013 is not a legal requirement. It's not a gag order, it's a choice. And that choice started right around the time someone new entered her life.
I have forgiven him. It took me a long time. I mean, I have to move on. And, you know, as I said, it happened to me, so I can't tell people how to feel about it. They're entitled to feel angry because it wasn't a good thing, that happened.
But you have forgiven him.
But I have, and that's my personal thing. And the minute I let go of that, I started living again.
But before we get to Rocky, we need to talk about what Rihanna actually said during those years. Because in 2012, she told Oprah something that people are still debating today. On Oprah's Next Chapter, which aired August 19, 2012, Rihanna said, "I have forgiven him. He's the love of my life. I still love him. My stomach drops." She explained that forgiving Brown was connected to her relationship with her own father, who had also been abusive. She told Oprah, "I thought I hated Chris, and I realized realized it was love that was tarnished. Now, I want y'all to hold on to one specific phrase from that interview, the love of my life. Remember that, because someone else is about to use those exact same words about Rihanna. And the contrast between those two moments tells the entire story. But while Rihanna eventually went quiet about Brown, Brown did not go quiet about Rihanna. Chris Brown was back at the Grammys by 2012, performing and winning Best R&B Album for FAM. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence publicly objected to the invitation. He's gone on to sell over 140 million records and remains one of the highest-grossing touring artists in the world. Career-wise, the industry welcomed him back, but the behavior pattern didn't change. In 2017, his ex-girlfriend Karrueche Tran had to obtain a 5-year restraining order after she said Brown threatened to end her life and had been physically abusive. He denied it. And in 2018, this is the part that really got me. Brown was leaving blushing emoji comments on Rihanna's Savage X Fenty lingerie posts, on the woman he put in the hospital, on her business photos, while she said nothing in return. In October 2024, Investigation Discovery released a documentary called Chris Brown, A History of Violence. And in 2025, he was arrested in the UK over a 2023 nightclub incident in which he's accused of a violent altercation with a producer named Abraham Diawar with a bottle at the Tape nightclub in London. He pleaded not guilty and was ordered to pay roughly $6.75 million in security fees. He was allowed to continue his world tour, so Rihanna chose silence. And Brown chose to keep showing up in her comments, in the headlines, and in the courtrooms. Make it make sense. And while all of that was happening, someone else was building something completely different with Rihanna. Without saying Chris Brown's name even once, A$AP Rocky and Rihanna first connected back in 2012. He was featured on the remix of her song Cockiness, Love It, and they performed together at the VMAs that year. In 2013, she appeared in his Fashion Killa video. For years, they were close friends. And during the 2020 pandemic, the friendship turned into something more. In May 2021, Rocky did a GQ cover story, and listen to what this man said. Quote, "She's the love of my life. She amounts to probably like a million of the other ones. I think when you know, you know. She's the one, now hold on, the love of my life." That is the exact same phrase Rihanna used about Chris Brown in 2012. Word for word, except when Rihanna said it, she was talking about a man who put her in the hospital. When Rocky said it, he was talking about the woman he was building a family with. Same words, completely different meaning. And I think that contrast right there tells you everything you need to know about why Rihanna stopped talking about Chris Brown. They now have 3 children together. Rymir Bros, born May 2022, named after the Wu-Tang Clan legend. Riot Rose, born August 2023, at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. And their daughter Rocky Irish, born September 2025. Rihanna revealed that pregnancy at the Met Gala where Rocky was a co-chair. They are not confirmed to be married, but in Rocky's 2022 music video for DMB, they wore matching grills that read "Marry Me" and "I Do." And that video, that song is where Rocky said everything without ever saying Chris Brown's name. On May 5th, 2022, Rocky dropped DMB. The music video featured him and Rihanna. And in the song, there is a lyric that the entire internet caught immediately. Cleaned up for the platform, it says, "I don't harm my woman, I need my woman." Now, Rocky never confirmed that line was about Chris Brown. Every outlet that covered it, Rolling Stone, Consequence, Hot New Hip Hop, framed it as what fans speculate, or what the lyric seemingly references. Nobody has gotten Rocky on record saying, yes, that was about Chris Brown. But here's the detail that makes it impossible to ignore. May 5th, 2022, the day that song dropped, is Chris Brown's birthday. Brown was born May 5th, 1989. Rocky dropped a song with that lyric, in a video with Rihanna, on Chris Brown's birthday. He never confirmed it, he never had to, because the timing said everything. That is not an interview. That is not a press conference. That is a man who said everything he needed to say in one line, on one day, and let the world put it together. And here's what makes the full picture even more powerful. Rihanna is a billionaire. Forbes confirmed it in 2021. Her estimated net worth is around $1 billion, the bulk of it coming from her 50% stake in Fenty Beauty, and roughly 30% of Savage X Fenty. She performed the Super Bowl halftime show in February 2023, her first live performance in 5 years, and used it to reveal her second pregnancy. She told Harper's Bazaar in February 2025 about her long-awaited 9th album. "It has to count. It has to matter. I have to show them the worth in the wait." Chris Brown's estimated net worth is around $60 million, still touring, still charting, but also still making headlines for all the wrong reasons. And Rocky, estimated around $20 to $30 million. But in February 2025, after 3 weeks of trial over charges related to a 2021 shooting incident involving a former associate, a Los Angeles jury of 7 women and 5 men took only about 3 hours to find him not guilty on both counts. When that verdict came down, Rocky jumped over the gallery wall into Rihanna's arms and told the jurors, "Thank y'all for saving my life."
We, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Rakeem Mayers, not guilty of
His defense attorney later revealed that Rocky had tried to keep Rihanna out of the courtroom. He told his lawyer, "She's Rihanna. I'm protecting her from this. I'm not letting her be here." But Rihanna came anyway. Every single day, that is what protection looks like. And it's the other half of the answer to why she doesn't talk about Chris Brown anymore. She went from a man she had to protect herself from to a man who tries to protect her from everything, including himself. So what did Rocky actually expose? He didn't give a tell-all. He didn't drag Chris Brown's name through a podcast. He didn't write a diss track with Brown's name in the title. He did something smarter and quieter than all of that. He dropped one bar: "I don't harm my woman, I need my woman," on Chris Brown's birthday, in a video with the woman Brown hurt, with grills that said "Marry me," and "I do." And then he went back to raising their kids, showing up to court, and calling Rihanna the love of his life. The same exact phrase she once used about a man who put her in the hospital. Rihanna's silence about Chris Brown is not fear. It's not a court order that expired in 2015. It's not avoidance, it's completion. She went from Robin Fecher in a police affidavit to a billionaire on the Forbes list. She went from "I still love him, my stomach drops" to a woman with 3 children and a partner who tried to shield her from his own trial. The reason Rihanna keeps Chris Brown's name out of her mouth is the simplest reason in the world. She doesn't need to say it anymore. She outgrew the conversation entirely. And the proof isn't in anything Rocky said, it's in everything he did. One bar, one birthday, one life. That's the answer. So I want to know, do y'all think Rihanna's silence is the ultimate form of winning? Or do you think she still owes the public a final word on that chapter of her life? And do y'all think Rocky dropping that line on Brown's birthday was intentional or just a coincidence? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll see y'all in the next one.